as we right now in Kiev, we've been through 24 hours of technical ceasefire, which is the first ever since the signing of the peace deal. And you've been traveling to East. Do you really see the change on the ground, or do you think that it's something too early to tell whether it would stand?
Oh, the change on the ground is definitely there. The weapons standing still. Actually, we have now a protracted period since the 1st of September. This ceasefire has been holding, so there is a progressive consolidation, I would say, and this is creating space for us to do a number of other things. We are now. I traveled to the south to see the situation around Shyrokyne. I spoke to the mayor of Mariupol. I visited the site from where we operate our own UAVs, and this was a good opportunity for me to look at the next steps. I think there is a chance in this moment for the political process to develop. Minsk implementation for us is obviously the key priority. So we want to adjust to the new functions that may be coming up, with hopefully the positive development of the political process and with the consolidation of the ceasefire. So those are, for us, the key objectives in this moment.
Talking about peace process in the last year, it was very complicated, right? Both sides sometimes were unable or unwilling to this process in the last year. Is it lack of communication between two sides, or was it something else?
Well, of course, communication is difficult. This conflict has been very bitter, and the degree of mistrust that we have seen has made every attempt to reconnect in a way very, very difficult. So I think this is one of the positive aspects about Minsk. We needed a strong international leadership. I think in that sense I welcome the role that the Normandy format has played, and obviously as things remain complicated, it is still important to have that kind of leadership and that kind of engagement. From our side, we then stepped in with these formats based on the Minsk agreement, operating in Minsk and also here, of course, ensuring that there is a constant channel of dialogue. And we see ourselves as facilitators, and of course active facilitators, also proposing solutions, etc.
But is it getting better in general?
Well, I think over time we have accumulated a number of ideas and proposals, and now the ceasefire and the fact that everybody accepts and is abiding by the ceasefire is creating a space that is improving the conditions for progress at the political level. Of course, there are still complicated issues, decentralization, the elections, and the technicalities, the withdrawals, the verification, etc. But there is work ongoing. There are discussions ongoing. That in itself is a positive element.
The peace deal is partially a ceasefire, partially a peace deal, which is very even hard to grasp for a lot of people, because when you talk to them, when you talk to people on the ground, they even don't know how to properly call it. Is it a peace deal or is it a ceasefire? Does it complicate the job of every party to find a solution? Because, you know, some would treat it as a ceasefire and others as an actual peace deal or attempted peace deal.
Of course, and different people from different in different places view these things differently. So I think it's important also for us to have a good sense of sequencing of these elements. And the ceasefire for me is the essential precondition. Once we manage to stop the military operations, we have carved out a space for us to have the other issues solved. And of course that must must be a process that involves all local actors and that we are ready to facilitate. The day the Ukrainian government tells us we have an arrangement on holding elections there, and those elections are based on the Ukrainian legislation, so the legal basis is clear, we'll do whatever we can to facilitate, to observe, etc. Of course, we will need the conditions also in practical terms to be aligned. We need to have access. One of the problems we still have is lack of access, especially in the separatist controlled areas. And for elections, we will need that access because we will need security guarantees for our observers, and we need also to make sure that we can go around and see what is happening, because that will contribute to a higher credibility of the elections, and that will be a good basis for a stable environment afterwards.
I think my last question is going to be about the conflict in general. So in 2015, we almost don't have local conflicts anymore, right? So every conflict has repercussions for the whole region or even for global community. This is the case for Ukraine right now too. So for example, you have refugee crisis in Europe, and Ukraine is partially already part of this crisis too. You have geopolitics repercussions from eastern Ukraine. Do you think that in last year people kind of understood that the eastern Ukrainian crisis is not a local crisis, not a local war, or is this understanding still lacking when it comes to especially European community?
I'm not so sure. I think in the OSCE it is clear. The geopolitics, the new divisions in Europe are very visible. The way the dialogue inside the organization is
why we have OSCE involved.
Is reminding us a bit of the Cold War atmospherics in a way, in a different in different manner with different circumstances. But outside, and as I in my contacts with the media, in my contacts with the public. Partly because security is so difficult to define today. There are so many aspects of it. The migration crisis is seen by some as a security issue, terrorism, and there may be a perception on the side of some that this conflict in Ukraine is a problem between Ukraine and Russia, or even an internal Ukrainian issue, and what we are trying to impress is that no, this is a larger question. This is really a question that invests also the security relationships in Europe, and it's a manifestation of that. As other conflicts, like the ones we've seen in Transnistria and Georgia, are part of the same set of issues. So it is these strategic relationships that need to be fixed to address the roots of some of these problems.